Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly Leica Talks, all things Leica. And before we get started, let me quick say thank you to all of my supporters. If you have the ability to contribute, please consider doing so. This show is really being run at this point. My whole photography career at the moment is on hold somewhat because so many events that I typically would photograph for clients, conferences, they're all postponed. Some of them are going online, which doesn't help a photographer who photographs at events. So there's not a lot of freelance work, and I've been upping the quantity of shows the last few months. And if you're able to contribute, please consider doing so. A small amount helps if everybody adds a little bit. All right, so today I want to talk about not Ralph Gibson's Leica, not Gary Winogrand's Leica, but my Leica. So this is my M6 TTL with a 50 Summicron f2, and I'm working to commit more to Leica than I have in the past. And I'm inspired by Ralph Gibson because he talked about how he made a commitment to learn one camera system and just get to be so fluid with it and so stealth. And this camera is so quiet and so stealth. And I can say I want to enjoy shooting the Nikon because it's so quick. I can literally pick the Nikon up and back button focus and shoot, and it's also instant. But I could get there with this too. This isn't a camera that's slower because it's slower, but because I'm not as familiar with it. And I am quite familiar with it, but I don't have back button focus, autofocus, pointed out the window and shoot. I have to kind of keep it at maybe 25 feet and have my shutter speed up high enough that I know if I point it out the window, I can shoot. I need to know what it can do and what it can't do, but the Nikon has been my go-to my whole world. I started as a photojournalist in the mid-'80s, and I'm shooting with Nikon every single day. And I moved to digital with Nikon. It's like, fits me like a glove. But it's not quiet. It's not small. It's not unimposing like the Leica. And I think that's what Ralph Gibson was drawn to, the fact that you could go places and you weren't intimidating. And you could go get insider access to stories and photograph things that you couldn't do it with a big tank of a camera like a Nikon. And so I'm making a commitment that as much as I like shooting the Nikon, and I know I'm quick with it, and I know I can be quick with this, and I tend to think of my Nikons are for street, my Nikons are for Roy Stryker, my Leica is for portraits of friends, my Leica is for plan shoots, I'm going to set up and all. Well, everything doesn't have to be so set up. If I'm zone focusing, I just need to know about where I need to be and shoot before I worry about those two things aren't exactly coincided. They're close enough to know what the limitations are and to do more with it than just use it occasionally for those friend photographs. To even use it for the Roy Stryker project. To even use it for things that I tend to shoot street, but I don't want to often bring the Leica because I don't think I'm as quick with it. I'm going to get quick. I want to commit to it because I like the fact that he said he committed to Leica and said, I'm going to be shooting Leicas and be a strong shooter with gear that I know will work and work with me. And this is Leica gear. This will work with me. It changes when I walk in and somebody else has the Nikons and Canons and they're used to seeing that. It changes when I walk in with this and they see somebody working with a smaller diminutive camera, which is much quieter, is much simpler. And I think it's about me becoming like Ralph Gibson, having that same commitment to saying, I'm going to make those photos. I'm going to make it so that this camera is like the back of my hand, like that Nikon has been all these years. Because I do love shooting my Leicas, but sometimes the Fuji is quicker. Sometimes the Nikon is instant. And sometimes I'm not always looking for how quick I can make it. I'm just looking to make sure I don't miss it. But that doesn't mean I will miss it with this. It just means I need to change my approach and I need to think about how I can bring this into my setup. Because if I didn't bring the Leica, if I brought the Fuji, you're not shooting Leica. But I like the idea that if I could make my whole commitment around Leica, I probably would only use the Nikon for commercial work and then do all my personal projects with the Leica. If I could use anything other than a Leica, it's probably the 4x5 for different kinds of portraits that 35 millimeter or digital Leica can't do. If I'm shooting anything other than Leica, it's maybe the Rolleiflex, because the 6x6 has its own value to me. I really enjoy shooting the Rolleiflex. But as far as shooting a 35 millimeter camera, I sometimes lean on the Nikons because it's so instant for me. And this can be. And so that's my new commitment, is to work with this to make this like the back of my hand. I can work with this and be as quick. And the quality is there, obviously. The black and white film is of the top quality right now. What they're making with Ilford HP5 is just fantastic. And I'm sure film is even better now than it was made back in the 60s when Tri-X was out. I bet it's a better formulation now. And we can do more with it than ever. So that's my commitment. And I think it's important to make that commitment because I can do more with that. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, hit the Patreon, and I'll be back next week and we'll talk more Leica. As always, here's the good light.